Sweet, sweet, sweet. We are live, fellas. We are live. We are live. How's it going? How's it going, y'all? Um, Hopefully it's been a good start of the week so far. Let's go ahead, check this out. We should be live. Sweet, sweet. There we go. Totally got that right there set up. All right. So it is week 4. My apologies. Stuff that is completely my fault got in the way of doing a show last week. Again, my fault. My apologies, fellas. But yeah, we got ourselves the week 4 fantasy show for Goon Squad here. Week 3, let's look at the outcomes. We got a win by Tony Soprano's Gabagool, my home team, against Phil's boy, Peyton's team. 121 to 105.7. Unfortunately, probably, good chance it could have been a loss for my team if Saquon didn't get injured. I have him in a couple leagues. That sucks to see. I Unless I was the top priority pick, I wasn't planning on wasting, like the pick on like Gallman if he was going to be the top pickup. I feel like in a lot of leagues, not many guys you can see off the waiver wire get off, for a good like 4 to 8 weeks that you can start them. Schedule doesn't look great after this week. Even this game, just the way for the Giants to do. I mean, Daniel Jones seems to where he does have the best matchup, so it'll be interesting to see how much Gallman's used, or if they trade for someone else to play in his spot as the starting running back, someone better than Gallman, because I just don't think Gallman's that good in the coming weeks. But we'll just have to see. You got a win by Coob's team, 129.9 to 93.7 against the Denton Degens Chandler's team, making Coob's record 2-1, Chandler 1-2. Then you get a tight game between Zaris' team and Will's team, 147 to 142, a win for Zaris' team to end up making it 2-1 for both teams' records heading into week 4. Barbecue Sauce with a nice high-scoring win against Max's team. Max is now down to 1-2. Bobby does get his first win of the season, and he does it in beautiful fashion, 146 points. And then, unfortunately, Pork Chop Express, Justin's squad, does not just it gets put to the sword right there by Cooper's team. 3-0. The Colorado Cream Pies should be interesting to see how that team pans out. I believe that they're the lone team to be undefeated through 3 weeks here in the Goon Squad Invitational. A nice 169, beautiful number right there to have a high scoring affair to 124. And then Tilden's team loses 118 to 94 to Steven's team, still on that revenge tour. Steven's team definitely one of the higher scoring teams. He was top of the standings last week, technically, or after week 1 or something like that, just by the points scored, tiebreaker. But yeah, that's how the matchups played out for week 3. Let's take a little detailed look into the matchups ahead of us. We'll have to pick a juicy matchup indeed. Let's see right here. Let's see. But let's see. So we'll go on the first matchup. We got a nice matchup between my team, Tony Soprano's Gabagool, and Big Yoshi with Will's team. Let's go into detailed view right here. Of course, the projected leaders are 2 quarterbacks, but you can't start 2 quarterbacks in this league. Should be really interesting. You never know. It's projected right now. I believe this setup in this game is projected for a 15-point deficit, but you just never know. Not many teams. Oh God, look at this. Yeah, there we go. Win probability right there. 56% that my squad ends up being the victor of this, but we'll just have to see. We got a nice Thursday night football game. I think it'll be more competitive than people think. Philly could be setting up for a win on the road against Green Bay. We'll just have to see. Green Bay, they've played well so far defensively, but honestly, they haven't played that great of offensive units. I think Philly has what it takes to be a team that can come in and beat them like that in Lambeau Field. But again, of course, Green Bay's heavily favored. As you can see right there, favored by 64.3%. I think Green Bay's in a great spot for bounce back for a lot of fantasy players. Let's take a look at the matchup here. We got Lamar Jackson at quarterback for myself. I think Lamar Jackson's still in a good spot against Cleveland. Cleveland's secondary's been hurt. We'll have to see if they come back. But that's just how you're going to be able to beat the Cleveland Browns. They got a really good front seven led by Miles Garrett. Nick Chubb, running back, I think he's just has a really good high floor. I really wish I would have drafted Dalvin Cook instead of Chubb right there at the near the beginning of the second round, but it just didn't pan out that way. Aaron Jones is in a tough spot matchup wise, but we'll just have to see. He's been getting a good amount of volume and just not the best matchup. But who knows? I mean, just when you're in that good of an offense and they haven't even been firing at their potential quite yet. Fortunately enough, that defense has won games for them so far. They, who knows? I mean, when you're the running back with Aaron Rodgers, a lot of pressure is going to be taken off of your running game. Devontae Adams, I think Devontae Adams is in a crush spot tonight. I think he'll do really well. Chris Godwin, he's questionable, but I don't think anything of that. He's in another good spot against the LA Rams. If you're going to beat the LA Rams in the passing game, which you can, they're not going to be able to run the ball great amount. I mean, Aaron Donald should feast on this Tampa Bay offensive line, but I think Chris Godwin's got the best matchup in the secondary. Keith Talib's going to be on Mike Evans, so we might not see a repeat of what we saw last week with Mike Evans because, my God, that was a huge game. Darren Waller, he's always in a good spot. Indianapolis isn't amazing against tight ends, so I'm fortunate with that. Chris Carson has a good spot against Arizona. He just needs to make sure that fumbling issues are taken care of, or else I don't know. Who knows if he loses his job if he continues to fumble? Most likely, I guess, right? You don't want to turn the ball over consistently. But Austin Eckler's in a great spot against Miami. And yeah, he's just been killing it so far. Last week, not amazing, but at least it sets up well. Packers defense could be a hit or miss. I don't expect Philly to get much done in the running game, but I do feel like they're going to have to try to rely on Zach Ertz quite a bit. Matt Bryant, he's a kicker for Atlanta. I just think Atlanta's playing in the dome at home. We'll have to see how that game pans out. Matchup wise, we'll go into other players that are on the Falcons and Tennessee, but Dak Prescott in a primetime game in New Orleans in the Dome. We saw Deshaun Watson played against him in Week 1, played really well, and Dak with Kellen Moore's offense just seems to be running really well. The teams that they face haven't been that good. The Redskins, the Giants, and Miami, just really easy schedule. I think Zeke will be used more in this game, in a more competitive game in the Dome. And then David Johnson is in a great spot against Seattle, I think. I mean, Arizona's favored, I think, at home. They might be favored. We'll have to see, but they're at home at least. They're not in Seattle. Devontae Freeman, Tennessee's got a really good up front, so I feel if anything, it's not a good matchup for Devontae Freeman. However, though, he could score a couple touchdowns just because Matt Ryan and company can get the ball through the air against this Tennessee defense. Juju Smith-Schuster, he is playing against a terrible defense of the Bengals. I know it didn't look very good with Mason Rudolph. His day was saved with a 76-yard touchdown catch last week. So with Juju, I think for this week, he has the potential to be a top wide receiver, has the upside because the matchup is just that bad. The Bengals defense is terrible. They're just terrible. They don't have to tackle worth the shit, and this guy could easily sneak his way to a long touchdown. So we'll just have to see with that. Let's take a look at Julian Edelman. He's dealing with a little bit of a rib issue, but who knows? They're going to need him against Buffalo. If not, they're going to have to rely on other players for the passing game. Josh Gordon could come in. I know I don't have him starting right now, but if Edelman's out, it's going to be hard not to put him in my lineup. But even then, I think Philip Dorsett could have a really good game this week. Just because I think Tre'Davious White is a really good matchup for the Bills defense. He's a really good near shutdown corner for the Bills. And then Will Dissly, what a great name anyways. But that guy has been just jumping off the page. Nick Vannett just got traded to the Steelers, which means that this team's really, really comfortable at the tight end position, helping them out. They got DK Metcalf coming in as a rookie. Disley's been there for a couple years now, really knows the offense, and of course he has a good rapport with Russell Wilson. You can't go wrong with that guy as your quarterback if you have a tight end on that team. He's just been balling out the last 2 weeks. Philip Lindsay against Jacksonville, it's going to be hard, but if one of the two running backs is going to have a good game against Jacksonville, it's going to be Philip Lindsay. Calvin Ridley, I think, is in a crush spot as well against Tennessee. They can get beat deep quite easily. Bills defense against New England, that should be interesting. Personally, I think that if you wanted to look at a game that New England could mess up in the middle of the season, this is a perfect game. Because I don't remember the last time New England's gone undefeated against all of their division. uh, I mean, last year they lost to the fucking Dolphins, so we'll just have to see. I think they can go 5-1 and lose one of the two games against the Bills because I don't see them losing to the Jets. Definitely not to the Dolphins this year. So I think this could be a good trap game for the Bills to get a win. And then you got Dallas's kicker, and Dallas's kicker is always in a good spot, a good offense for a good kicker, and he's going to play in a dome. Next matchup, we got Stone Cold's kind of whoop ass against Phil's boy. Peyton really in need of a win right now. The projections are saying a 52% chance for Coop's team to get a win to improve to 3-1. Peyton's team really hoping that nothing bad happens to lead to 0-4. It's just hard to find yourself in the playoffs after that kind of start. But who knows? We'll have to see. Let's look at the players. Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Again, I think if you're going to beat Philly, it's easily through the air. We saw Matt Ryan play, shitty, but still have a great fantasy week against them. Alvin Kamara, he's going to be utilized quite a bit. We saw how well that offense actually ended up, utilizing him. Barely used Latavius Murray. I think Latavius Murray, I drafted him in a lot of leagues because I thought he would have like a Mark Ingram role, but it doesn't seem to be the case. They're gonna, Alvin Kamara, the dude, like I swear, he just goes to the movie theaters and just jumps into the popcorn machine and gets all buttered up before he goes to the game because this dude just slips through every tackle. I think Alvin Kamara is a great player. Coop traded up and gave up a lot of capital for him, but Kamara's a top three running back talent in football, I think, and then that offense is still going to run pretty well, I think. LaShawn McCoy, we'll have to see what his injury concern is right now. But, you're playing a great offense. Detroit is very good at stopping the run, though, so I do expect a good Pat Mahomes showing, of course. Brandon Cooks playing Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has a horrible secondary, a very good run game. Don't expect Todd Gurley to get too much done this week, so expect a lot of passing by Goff and the boys, especially at home. Jared Goff is better at home, and that's only going to help Brandon Cooks. Tyrell Williams will be playing Indianapolis. Indianapolis has pretty good corners, pretty damn good secondary, actually. Indianapolis, I mean, it's a shame to see how good this team is without Luck. You'd only imagine with Luck. But, we'll have to see how Tyrell Williams plays as the top wide receiver on this team, getting all that attention. Delaney Walker, he will be playing Atlanta. I think he can have a great game as well. Sterling Shepard is playing the worst defense against the pass. Josh Norman is no longer a problem. He's terrible. So I think that's a good matchup for him. James White, I think he can do well if Julian Edelman is going to be hurt. Vikings defense will be playing Minnesota. And you can go ahead, walk through there. But might have to do the limbo. But Vikings defense be playing Chicago. I think it's a good spot for them. It'll be a really low scoring game. And then you got Mason Crosby set up, in Lambeau Field, good offense against, Aaron Rodgers. That should, be a nice stack to where they're going to find themselves in Eagles territory quite a bit. And then you got Kyler Murray at quarterback against Seattle. We'll have to see if Seattle does really well against the run against David Johnson, because I think Kyler Murray, I mean, he's been a high volume player, and I think that's kind of saved his season so far. But hopefully he gets a couple touchdown passes. I think Fitz will play quite well against that bad secondary for Seattle. I think Derrick Henry's in an underrated spot this week. I mean, in half PPR, you're not really losing too much on his ranking and stuff amongst other running backs. You don't really need him in this matchup to be utilized in the passing game. I think there's a good chance that Tennessee could, play from just, have positive game script for Derrick Henry and to where he's going to be running the ball to keep just to keep the lead against Atlanta. And Atlanta will most likely make a couple mistakes, not be able to run the ball well against Tennessee's defense. Wayne Gallman, this is the matchup to try to, get those points to prevent himself from going 0-4 Peyton's team. He could get double digits in this matchup, very well could. Just like I said, even if he's not going to get many yards, he could get a couple rushing touchdowns. T.Y. Hilton, we'll have to see what his quad's doing, but he's in a great matchup against Oakland. Terry McLaurin in a great matchup against the Giants. We saw Mike Evans still didn't didn't give a shit about the Janoris Jenkins defense and had 3 touchdowns, 190 yards. Even if McLaurin had 100 yards and a touchdown, that's still looking at least 16 points for the week for Peyton's team. Mark Andrews, don't worry about it. Cleveland's one of the worst teams in defending for the past like 2 or 3 seasons, and still now one of the worst defenses against the tight end. And Lamar Jackson's going to be finding that man somewhere. He'll bounce back this week, I think. I have him in a couple leagues. Christian Kirk, again, like Carl Murray, if both of them are going to play really well, then that's a nice stack to have. Correlate with it. Demarcus Robinson, again, Detroit, you're going to beat them through the air, and I think he could score a big touchdown just like McCole Hardman. Ravens defense, I think that's an underrated defense for this week. Baker Mayfield has actually thrown the most interceptions in the NFL in the last 2 seasons. Since he's been starting, he has the most interceptions at quarterback in the NFL. So you could have possibly a pick six to help you out. And then you have Jason Myers and against the kicker for an offense that's going to be moving the ball quite well against Arizona. So I think it'll be a nice matchup between Peyton's team and Coob's team. Next up, we got Zaris' team at 2-1 against 1-2 Chandler squad. A 51% chance that Zaris' team is going to win this week. Should be interesting. We got Smoke Brissett playing against a bad Oakland team. I expect him to have a high floor in this game. Ceiling is never really there with Brissett, but he can get you at least 15, 20 points, I think, and find him right around that range. Josh Jacobs is in a good spot. Um, just because I don't think the game will be largely. I think Indianapolis is a team that's not going to just beat the crap out of teams to where Josh Jacobs will end up surrendering snaps to Jalen Richard in the passing game. I think he'll be able to still get about 15, 20 touches this game. Royce Freeman, I think it's a bad matchup for him, but if that's the one running back you have in that position, you got to do it. DJ Moore, I think DJ Moore's in a great spot. We saw him against Arizona. He only had one catch, but technically in itself, they're vulnerable in the secondary right now. And I think, he's a big play waiting to happen. Randall Cobb is actually in a really good spot against New Orleans. They're not very good at all against the slot. I think he could do pretty well, be a nice safety blanket. Travis Kelsey's Travis Kelsey. He's gonna get it. He's gonna get you at least double digits every week. He's got one of the best quarterbacks we've ever seen talent wise as his quarterback. He's just gonna be consistent for you. I think Cortland Sutton, if you can get another wide receiver or running back in that flex that you can try to run, or if you want to take out him or Royce, I think Jacksonville is an underrated defense for this week, and I just don't see Sutton doing much. I think, if anything, Emmanuel Sanders will have a good game again because Jalen Ramsey or another outside wide receiver. It's usually the more wide receivers that are in their set that usually don't do as well against Jacksonville compared to the slot wide receivers when matched up against Jacksonville. Marquise Brown, again, he's in a spot where I think he's a home run waiting to happen at any point. We saw that week one. We saw that a lot of times. He can get you 16 points on one, or sorry, not 16 points. He can get you like 12 points on one catch. Bears defense, they're in an amazing spot. Kirk Cousins is terrible. He can throw a couple of picks if Chicago finds himself in a lead and he's having to pass the ball more, which I think Dalvin Cook, he's in a great spot. That offense with Kubiak running the zone blocking scheme, it just runs well. I mean, you got Aaron Foster was able to get so much usage and such like good efficiency over the years with that type of style offense. I think Dalvin Cook should be relied upon quite a bit. He'll get a couple touch or like at least like 15, 20 touches in that game, but who knows? We'll have to see if the efficiency stays up because Chicago's really good this year on defense again. Justin Tucker, fuck that dude still for beating A&M on A&M's last Big 12 game. He's amazing at kicking. Tom Brady playing Buffalo. I don't think they're going to get anything done in the running game. He's going to have to pass the ball, and I think Philip Dorsett's his guy. Josh Gordon could surprise us all and have a really big game. Todd Gurley, not in the best of spots. Zaris, really, he hasn't looked all too good when it comes, just the efficiency and the touches. I mean, he's on pace for 21 catches and 32 targets for the whole year. Last year, he had 60 catches, and that's really concerning to me. I'm in one league, and that concerns me. Mark Ingram, he has a tough matchup, but I do think that the Ravens are going to utilize him quite well. That offensive line is good. Michael Thomas is in a good spot. Odell Beckham is in a good spot, I'd have to say. I know Baker's going to be throwing picks, but hey, we saw that how Baker didn't have a good game against the Jets, and yet Odell still had that 80-yard touchdown catch. That's the things he can do. Demetrius Harris, I know you're tight as fuck at a tight end. We'll just have to see how that. But that's just a dart throw right there. Tyler Lockett's in a great spot. Larry Fitzgerald is in a great spot. I mean, I love your wide receivers for this week, Zaris. They're going to do really well. Cowboys defense, maybe if you can drop a player that you don't like and add a second defense to replace them for the week, because I just don't see the Cowboys defense doing amazing against New Orleans, because it's going to be on the road in the Superdome. So that should be interesting. And then Carolina's kicker, I think they're going to be able to still move the ball decently well against Houston. Maybe just not on the running game as well. Now looking at barbecue sauce and pork chop express, this is one of the better matchups of the week in my opinion. 54% win probability for barbecue sauce Bobby's squad to beat Justin's team. These are two teams, 1 and 2, that when you kind of look at it, Melvin Gordon, there's news that Melvin Gordon's going to come back in a couple weeks. With that being said, Bobby, don't be discouraged if you are 1 and 3. A lot of us that end up in the playoffs in the past couple of seasons have been 1 and 3, and all you need to do, just make sure you don't lose 7 games. So it doesn't really matter if you're 1 and 3 or Justin's team either. Justin's team is loaded after absolutely just fisting Coop's butthole on these trades. Carson Wentz, I think, is going to have a good game against Green Bay to make it competitive. Dalvin Cook is in a really tough spot. We'll have to see just, if Dalvin Cook still has like a touchdown and 100 yards in this game, that Dalvin Cook's going to be the number one running back the rest of the season. Not a doubt in my mind. On Johnson, he's in a good spot against Kansas City. If Detroit at home can keep the game in their own pace, I think on Johnson, he was utilized a lot last week, so it could be a really good spot for him. Robert Woods is in a great spot against Tampa Bay. Adam Thielen is in a difficult spot, but I think if there's a wide receiver to trust in Minnesota, at least to get a touchdown, it's Adam Thielen. Zach Ertz is in a great spot for himself. Wentz and Ertz, that's a great correlation between those two. DJ Shark, he will most likely get the Harris Jr. defense, and we saw Devontae Adams, not do too well against even that defense, which is why we saw MVS Scantling get that huge game of nearly 100 yards on 6 catches and a touchdown. That's what I expect DJ Shark. If you can put another player besides him in, because I think he'll just get easily shut down. I think D.D. Westbrook could be an underrated play for Jacksonville's wide receivers. Just a big play waiting to happen. If you have him on any of your rosters and you need to throw a guy into flex, fuck it. That guy could get you a 100-yard game, like we saw with Scantling. Similar, like not the size of MVS, but D.D. Westbrook definitely has the speed of that. So that should be an interesting play. McCole Hardman, expect him to probably get 100 yards again this week. Rams defense against Tampa Bay, I mean, they have the potential to get you 20, 30 points. I mean, you could have a couple pick sixes against Jameis Winston. I do think that Jameis and them are looking better on offense. Think about it, man. Jameis has not played bad these last 2 weeks, and a lot of people dropped him and stuff. I picked him up just because he has a really good matchup when Lamar Jackson has an off week. It really, when you're looking at it, he put that team in position to ruin Daniel Jones's debut, to where their kicker had a game-winning field goal that he missed. Jameis put him down on the field, and he set their kicker up with a perfect spot down the middle, and he missed that shit. Harrison Butker, great offense in a dome. Easy. Don't have to screw with anything else at the kicker position. Russell Wilson's in a great spot. Zeke is in a great spot. I think Zeke is going to have a great week. This could be a breakout week to where Zeke could get, a couple touchdowns, 100 yards rushing for Bobby. James Conner's in a great spot. This could be his correction spot. Keenan Allen is, of course, in a great spot. Miami shutdown corner is a wide playing corner, so maybe Mike Williams will get that attention, but maybe, too, they move in to try to guard Keenan Allen. But even then, Keenan Allen is one of the best route runners we have seen in such a long time that I don't even think Xavier Howard could stop that man. I mean, we saw Amari Cooper, a great route runner, just burn Xavier Howard last week, and this is just as good of an offense. This Chargers team, not quite as good as the Cowboys are, but once they get Melvin Gordon, they could be just on par with that team. Kenny Galladay is playing Kansas City. Kansas City needs better corners. Jalen Ramsey has been hinted possibly, but they want to move him to another conference basically. But Kansas City, that's a good spot for Kenny Galladay. I think Austin Hooper, Tennessee's not amazing against tight ends. A good spot. They'll have to pass the ball. I think is that their script is they're going to be trailing. They're not going to be able to run the ball well. Tyler Boyd is in a good spot for Cincinnati. He's been consistent. Chris Thompson, this could be an Adrian Peterson week if in all weeks. If you're playing daily fantasy, I feel like Adrian Peterson could be, a guy you can put in like a fifth year lineups, and he could really just bust out and get 100 yards and a couple touchdowns. Because if the Redskins are going to have a positive script in any game, it's going to be this game against the Giants. So I don't know if Chris Thompson will be utilized as well, but hey, it's not a problem with complaining about 1 week to where Chris Thompson isn't in a great spot. This team is not good, and that's why this dude year after year comes in and becomes like a running back 2 flex play for you every week because Redskins are that bad. They're going to have to utilize that running back compared to AP in the passing game playing catch up. Tight end the tight ends the Titans are a defense that I think could do really well against Matt Ryan, and then Matt Ryan could throw a couple picks. And I also see that that they might have a pick six or something like that. And I don't think there's going to be much done in the running game to really put a hurt on this Titans defense. I think they're set up in a good spot. Farbarn, again, Carolina's defense has been suspect. We'll have to see how Bradbury plays against Hopkins because Bradbury's played really well so far this season. But hey, this kicker position, you're in a good offense. You're going to have a good kicker in this offense. I expect him to get maybe double digits. So here we go. We got Tilden's team, not projected all too great. I think Vance McDonald's out because Nick Vanette just got traded to the Steelers to replace him. So you might want to pick up on that. Um, Max has a huge win probability in this one. He's just like the Packers basically for tomorrow. 65% win probability for Max's team. Both of them are 1-2. I think Max's team unfortunately lost a high scoring affair last week, and he could bounce back easily. I think Patrick Mahomes, the dude that you draft that dude, you draft him in the first round, so don't blame you. I wouldn't have done it in this league, but you did it, and there's no Madden curse. This guy, you want to know why Patrick Mahomes has the Kermit the Frog voice? It's because he wins at everything else in life. Okay, that's why he has the Kermit the Frog voice. Like literally, the dude is so good at everything else. He has to have some fucking crutch, and that's the only crutch, and that's it. I mean, you can't even hate the man for loving ketchup. He's fucking playing. He's a quarterback in the NFL. This is like the half black Brett Favre that everybody's gonna love even more. You got Joe Mixon against Pittsburgh. I think if anything, both teams are struggling. Joe Mixon's in a good spot, especially in the passing game. Leonard Fournette against Denver. Denver hasn't been amazing. They haven't. Denver has not even gotten a sack yet with Bradley Chubb and Von Miller. That's insane. I think they're going to get it this week, but Leonard Fournette, if he's going to be able to score his first touchdown of the season, it'll have to be against Denver. I think Marvin Jones is in a great spot. We saw him bounce back with Kenny Galladay not having a good week against KC right here. John Ross could have 200 fucking yards for all we know against this Pittsburgh defense. They're just so easily beat on the outside. TJ Hawkinson, he's in a great spot against Kansas City. Marlon Mack is in an amazing spot. He's in an underrated running back in this spot against Oakland. Indianapolis is a great team. It's one of the best core teams you could have. You imagine Aaron Rodgers playing with Indianapolis or something like that. I mean, especially how that offense has been more consistent than the Packers' offense has been. Oddly enough, you got Frank Gore at running back. That's a tough matchup, man. That's a really tough matchup. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game, just like Chicago and Minnesota. Chargers are playing Miami. Keep them in. And not only that, I believe the Chargers play Pittsburgh, and they play Cincinnati, and they play another really bad offense coming up, another bad team. Just keep them as your defense for the next couple of weeks, max, and not even have to worry about it. Will Lutz, they're going to, he's playing at home in the Dome. Good offense. There you go. Matt Ryan, I think could have a big game. He could throw a couple picks. He's thrown a ton of picks this year, but doesn't stop fantasy-wise. I mean, he could throw 4 or 5 touchdowns. That's the potential he has, especially in a bad running matchup for Devontae Freeman. Tariq Cohen, I think you can try to trade Tariq Cohen or cut him or something like that. He's playing so bad. Peyton Barber, I mean, the Rams are a team that you can run on more so than pass necessarily. I think Godwin's in a good spot, but Ronald Jones, we'll see how that pans out because Peyton Barber had a great week on Thursday night against Carolina. Then Ronald Jones had a good week. It's just, technically, if you wanted to say Peyton Barber is probably going to have the good week this week, right? If they keep on alternating. Chris Conley, I think with Shark getting shut down, there's a possibility Conley has a good game. Vance McDonald, get him out. You got to get him out. And also, too, if you're gonna play Scantling, put him in the one of the two wide receiver spots. I'd put him in Conley's spot. Sanu, oh man, it sucks that Diggs isn't hitting well for you. I know you just traded Mark Andrews for him, which is a pain because Vance McDonald ends up having that happen. But I think you need to use. Let's see what your bench is looking like. I think you need to use Greg Olson. I know he's questionable, but use Greg Olson. The man's going to be set up quite well. I think in the tight end position, he's going to play. He's that's the thing with a lot of not a rookie quarterback, Kyle Allen, but these quarterbacks starting to get more comfortable with their games that they're going to utilize a McCaffrey in the passing game and Olsen in the passing game. Have more checkdowns, more passes like dig routes and like 5-10 yard routes. And I think Olsen's a guy you need to put in for Vance McDonald. And I think you need to put in Scantling because never play. If there's one thing I learned, you never play a Thursday night player. If you're going to play a Thursday night player, never have them in your flex because then you won't be able to utilize it at that point just in case injuries come in last minute on Sunday. Diggs, that's a tough spot, but if anybody's going to have like a 60-yard touchdown catch and save your week, it's Diggs. Jacksonville, that's a defense that could score a couple touchdowns against Flacco, and their running game I don't think is going to do too well against Jacksonville. Greg Zerline, I mean, he's the best kicker in football, and he's on a great offense at home to where they'll be rolling. This is the juicy matchup of the week. These are two of the best teams I think in this league. We got Cooper's team, and we got the season-ending IR revenge tour. Maybe this is the first legitimate head turner to where we see Steven just beat the shit out of Cooper's team or something like that, and we all just turn our heads and be like, oh shit, this guy's actually serious. But of course, it's Steven's team. The player's gonna hurt his knee in like week 12. Just kidding. So for Cooper's team, we got Deshaun Watson at quarterback. I have another league. Deshaun Watson, just plug and play. You don't have to deal with any other quarterback every other week. I will say for his bye, try to find a good matchup just to stream a quarterback on week 8 for his bye. He has McCaffrey. McCaffrey's just going to be utilized. I think David Montgomery, though, he's going to start getting more usage and better, I think, as the year goes on. But it's just unfortunate to see that Chicago's had that case of not being able to run the ball well because they haven't really been able to do anything well. And I don't buy Trubisky having a really good week against the Redskins. Redskins are dead last against the pass. Josh Norman is terrible. Josh Norman is no longer Josh Norman that leads a defense like with Luke Kuechly on the Carolina Panthers to a Super Bowl appearance. No, that team is trash. So I think if anything, they need to rely on running the ball. And Minnesota, I mean Minnesota, if you can give David Montgomery the ball 20 times against Minnesota, he could get 80 yards and a touchdown. We'll just have to see. Mike Evans has a tough spot against Aqib Talib, but it's Mike Evans. We all know Mike Evans. He's an impressive top talent, a huge target to throw the ball to, so you never know. But you got to play him. You got to play him. Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup's Cooper Cup, man. I mean, it makes sense. Cooper, drafts, Cooper. And then CK right there. Cooper Cup's going to be just a top 10 receiver, I think, in fantasy this season. He's just such a reliable player for Jared Goff, and it's at home. Like I said, with Brandon Cooks, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp's going to be a top 10 receiver this week against a terrible defense secondary. Jared Cook, we'll have to see. I didn't see how well he played last week, but against Dallas, I feel like that might, you never know with Jared Cook. Again, the tight end situation is so thin right now that it's kind of a pain in the ass. Sammy Watkins, he's been quiet the past few weeks, but hey, Darius Slay, I think, just plays on one side of the field. If Sammy Watkins gets utilized and knowing Andy Reid and how good he is of an offensive coordinator and offensive mind, he can get Sammy Watkins definitely in position to have a 100-yard game and a couple touchdowns. Manuel Sanders, keep him in that lineup. He's going to do well. And Patriots defense, it's going to be a low-scoring game. So I think if anything, them and the Bills defense, um, that's definitely a game that just like Minnesota and Chicago, those are definitely four defenses involved in those games that you kind of feel comfortable, just have him in there, especially with the Patriots running the ball against the Bills. Just hasn't looked that effective. So I think the Patriots are in an amazing spot. Josh Allen throws interceptions even if they win. So Patriots, and they have an amazingly easy schedule. That's a team that, like, hell, you could try to trade for the Patriots defense at this point. They look that good. Tai Long. I think he's kicking again. Chargers should easily win against Miami, which means that they'll be in lots and lots of spots. They've struggled near the goal line, so it could result in a couple field goals, 3 or 4 field goals, or several or a few field goals for this game. Jared Goff at home. great spot. Damon Williams, I mean, Damon Williams is in that offense and pass catching back. He's going to do well. Miles Sanders, it should be interesting. Again, it's just like I said, if you're listening to this, Tilden, put Scantling as one of your two receiver slots because Stevens got Miles Sanders in his running back spot, and that's a player that's going to be playing this Thursday. You just got to do that with those position players, so that way you can avoid any kind of conflict or last minute conflict by scheduling up your lineup for the week on a Sunday. DeAndre Hopkins, again, I think he's in a good spot, even though Bradbury might be trying to shadow him. Julio Jones is amazing. You know, last year we saw how he was having problems with getting touchdowns. Definitely not the case this season. What does he have? 4 or 5 touchdowns through 3 weeks. So it's been impressive. I think he's had a couple. I think it is 5 touchdowns. A couple games of multiple touchdowns. Evan Ingram, amazing spot against Washington. Washington has always been terrible against tight ends, and when Daniel Jones comes to town and he's passing that well, I mean, I had Evan Ingram in every lineup last week for daily fantasy and stuff like that. I mean, I think he is the most impressive, you know, receiving option for Daniel Jones in this offense. I mean, Sterling Shepard's there, but even then, Golden Tate and Sterling Shepard. It should be interesting to see. It's a shame that Saquon got injured, but you know, this offense is definitely going to get way better with Jones as quarterback. Amari Cooper, he's most likely going to try to get shadowed by, or he's not going to. New Orleans is going to try to shadow Lattimore with him, but Lattimore hasn't been amazing as he was as a rookie. But I still think that Kellen Moore, they just keep thinking of new ways to try to get Amari Cooper in and out of defenses, and he's an amazing route runner. I think he's set up. I mean, again, like I said, this is one of the better trios I've ever seen at wide receiver. He zagged or he zigged while we all zagged. So good job by drafting that. I'll mention it every damn week. I don't care. But Carlos Hyde, running back against Carolina. Carolina is definitely formidable, if that's the correct use. Or sorry, formidable. Jesus, vulnerable against the run. We saw even Tampa Bay with one of the top 5 worst offensive lines. I know Houston's not an amazing offensive line, but Carolina, even with Luke Kuechly, hasn't been consistent against stopping the run. So Hyde could have a couple touchdowns this week. Falcons defense, I really like the Titans side way more. But in itself, you never know. Mariota's a terrible quarterback, and what, you going to replace him with Ryan Tannehill? So hey, that's just what I'm looking at. It just doesn't. Who knows? We'll have to see. You just can't, because if they can stuff the Titans running game, because I know Taylor Lewan comes back after 4 weeks in week 5, so it will be after this week that he comes back. But so there is a possibility that running game doesn't get utilized as well as it should be with Derrick Henry. And then you got Zane Gonzalez, Arizona's kicker. Arizona's going to be able to move the ball through the air, and that's basically what they've been doing so far this season. I think Kyler Murray could throw for over 300 yards, set them up in Seattle's territory multiple times to set up for field goals. And yeah, that looks quite well to me. Let's take a gander at let's look at the standings, fellas, before I sign off right here. Let's see. If you can qualify for any credit card, these are the top 6. All right. What the fuck is that invention right there? Okay, so here we go. Here's a detailed breakdown. Right now in first place, we got Colorado Cream Pies, 3-0, points for, just by far the highest scoring team in the league. We got Will's team second, and they are the second highest scoring team in the league. And third is Zaris's team at 379 points scored. You get my team right there at 377 points, 358 right there. So basically, you're kind of seeing a little bit, unfortunately, with the schedule, and it does suck when looking at it even more when you're looking at the standings and the league schedule. Bobby and Justin are in the top half for points scored. I mean, you see Coop's team is 2-1, but Coop's team has a 13-point margin of victory. He's winning these close games, and that's the unfortunate thing. You look at Bobby, and Bobby has easily faced the hardest schedule so far at 1-2. It just the record doesn't speak for itself right now. Having literally a point less than my team, yet my team is 2-1, and his team is 1-2. We'll really have to see how unfortunate that schedule is, and we already are with Week Four's matchup to where both Justin and Bobby are in the top half in scoring. At I believe Bobby is fifth, right behind mine, and Justin's at sixth with Pork Chop Express points four scored so far this year in the first 3 weeks. But unfortunately, they're facing each other this week, so they're only going to have a higher points against. Again, it's just unfortunate. One of y'all is going to be 1-3, or maybe y'all just kiss each other real quick, and you get a nice little tie right there, and it's just meant to be, and y'all don't end up having a loss on either of y'all's record. So we'll have to see right there, but it is unfortunate to see that many points scored. And also too, I mean, Peyton's team 0-3, but even then, he's, you know, uh, you're seeing Coob's team have only point 0.5 more points scored than Peyton's team, and that's the difference between 2 wins and 3 losses so far. 2-1 record and a 0-3 record. So you just never know with that kind of um, matchups you're having to face each and every week. You never know when you're going to face a Cooper Cup going for 11 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns. You just never know. So at fifth place, 2-1 is Steven's team, 358 points, 331 points for 2-1 Coob's team. Then we're down now at the seventh spot. Bobby, of course, him and Justin's team both 1-2. Talked about them just now. We got I believe Max's team is 1-2 right now, and then you got Denton Degens 1-2. You got 1-2 as well for Tilden's team, and then the lone 0-3 team. Um, should be interesting to see how it pans out, folks. But so far, that is the standings for you so far. Unfortunately, Bob and Justin, y'all are going to have to beat the crap out of each other to try to reach for that 2-2 spot to get back to 500. And y'all have faced two of the harder schedules for sure. Bobby is by far seeing the hardest schedule. And then actually, Zaris' team must have been beating the shit out of for 1 week because Zaris has the second hardest schedule, but he is 2-1. Must have been just a huge ass whooping. I think it was facing Cooper's team at 169 of those 405 points. I mean, what is that? Nearly like that's definitely more than like 40% of the points against came from 1 week. When 40% of the points came against you in 1 week, when you only have 33% of the sample size representing that, it's definitely an outlier. So Zars's team is probably going to keep up its record, fortunately enough, at 2-1. But it should be interesting, fellas. I'm looking forward to it. Week 4 stuff. We can do a little like fantasy podcast or something like that. I'm down as always. We could talk about what players we're kind of eyeing at in other leagues and stuff like that. Because that's the funny thing. If we talk about this, is that is kind of taking the cat out of the bag right there, to where in itself it's hard to talk about fantasy teams and like fantasy players that we want to buy low, sell high on in a league that we're all a part of and listening to these videos and stuff like that, which is why I don't talk about it on this one. But we can talk about it for other leagues and stuff like that. So sounds fun to me. We can do it on like a Zoom presentation or whatnot. Should be interesting, or a Skype. But as always, fellas, take care. Good luck this week. We have a really interesting Thursday night matchup, but it could be a shit show again. It's Thursday night. Like I said, it's the upside down. Every time that shit happens and it looks good, it goes bad. If it goes bad, it goes good. Who knows? As always, y'all, take care. Be grateful for everything that comes to you. And hope to hear from y'all about some trade offers. Like I said, Aaron Jones, even I'll say Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Chris Carson, Eckler could be on the block. We'll just have to see with the news with Melvin Gordon and stuff. Maybe I trade Bob. See what Bob has to say about that. Prevent any kind of like heartaches with that. As always, fellas, take care. And that is a wrap for week 4.